This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Mexico. I'm here with Laura Darrell Leadership Consulting. Since 2021, she has been helping franchisees and franchisors enhance their working relationship using inspirational speaking engagements and strategic people planning initiatives, while harnessing your existing people potential. I'm joined with the founder, Laura. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
Let's start off a little bit about yourself. You're formally educated with a master's in organizational leadership from Royal Roads University. You have years of experience directly with world-renowned brands like A&W, Starbucks, Apple, and many more. You have volunteered your time for many organizations. You continue your writing contributions for Franchise Wire as well as others. Share with me how your education, your experience kind of led you to consulting in this particular ever-growing industry.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I like to say I grew up in the franchise industry. My very first job was with A&W Restaurants, working for a large multi-unit franchisee. And I really learned how to run and operate a business through the eyes of a franchisee. And then as I kind of went on in my career, I made the switch to working for corporate, working for the franchisor, and I spent about a decade working for three very large restaurant franchisors in Canada. And my final position was Vice President of Operations and Training at Boston Pizza. So I love that world. I love just the entrepreneurial spirit of franchisees, and I really love helping franchisees and franchisors start to speak the same language because they're cut from two different cloths. And while I was at Boston Pizza, I decided that I wanted to supplement all of this like operational boots on the ground experience. I wanted some education to go with that. So that's when I decided to undertake my master's degree at the same time that I was working with Boston Pizza. And I was really fortunate because I got to write my thesis all about franchisee and franchisor collaboration. And when those two groups come together and they start speaking the same language, beautiful things happen from a results perspective. The franchisees are really successful. The system is really successful. So that's my jam. I spent my whole life working there, and I decided that, I was going to retire, move to beautiful Mexico, and now I'm doing some consulting in the areas that I love the most.
That is interesting. Bringing those two separate mindsets together is almost probably a science and an art at the same time. Speaking of entrepreneurial spirit, to own your own company, control your own financial destiny, work for yourself, would you say that is still the American dream and is the dream alive in franchising?
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. And I think that something really interesting happened in the post-COVID world. It was such a disruptive time for everybody. And coming out of COVID, we went through this, they called it kind of the Great Resignation. I wrote my first book about this strange time where people were really reevaluating life and what was important for them and how they wanted to spend their time. And kind of since the downstream effects of that Great Resignation, we're seeing a lot of those folks end up in the franchise world because they want to do their own thing. They want to be their own boss. So that, coupled with what's happening with Gen Z right now, is super exciting for the franchising world because these guys are the most entrepreneurial generation that we've ever seen. Yeah. So these kids, like, they have the desire, they have the passion to own their own business. So when you take that with an industry that is doing really well and opening a lot, I think it's 20,000 new units in the US alone this year.
Wow.
It's a really, really exciting time.
That is exciting. I mean, speaking of the COVID era, in 2020, the work environment seemed to change. Again, with the great walkout, the resignation, as you say. Do we now see a shift to young entrepreneurs as the baby boomers are beginning to retire a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting with the baby boomers and small business ownership. When you look at the annual rate of retirement in the US alone for the baby boomers, they're going to be selling 350,000 businesses a year. And some of those, of course, are going to be franchise businesses. So there's this kind of growth of an industry. There's the baby boomers exiting in record numbers. So it is a really great opportunity for those younger generations to get out on their own and open their own business and start to acquire their own net worth. And I mean, gosh, who knows where the American dream takes you after that?
Interesting. I mean, the key to success in business is the business model. Yet, even the best business model still depends on people to run it. How important is relationship building and communication in the franchise industry?
It's essential. I think that in any business, how you treat your people, it can't be better than how you treat your customers. I think that those businesses that really understand, especially with the millennials and Gen Z, these guys want to work for, leaders that have an appreciative leadership style, a coaching leadership style where they feel like, they're rewarded and recognized for their contributions. They feel like somebody cares about, their career, their trajectory. They want to help them grow their skills. Businesses that figure that out and they invest in that leadership training for their leaders and their business, they're going to win that war for talent, hands down, because relationships is really at the heart of everything we do. And the franchise industry is no different than that. I see that a ton in the relationships between franchisees and franchisors and how those two groups come together to kind of work that system, to work that business model. The relationship is critical. And without it, I think that the franchisees nor the franchisor, they won't reach their full potential until they really learn to collaborate together and just look at each other from an appreciative stance. Like, you bring something different to the table, I bring something different to the table. Let's find a way to collaborate and work better together.
Probably exciting for you to see those two generations come together, working together, both bringing something unique. Why was it your decision to focus on Gen Z and millennial leadership when creating some of your retention strategies?
I think that that's just at the heart of organizations today. I mean, the baby boomers are retiring in huge numbers. Then you've got some of the Gen Xers that are in more of those kind of senior leadership positions at this point. And the bulk of the workforce is made up by millennials. And then Gen Z is a fast follow. I think the oldest ones are 25 years old now. So when you look at 5 years out from now, Gen Z is going to be the largest demographic in the workplace. And I just believe from a strategy perspective, it's always better to be ahead of those things and to train your leaders now, to invest in those skills now, than waiting until all of a sudden you've got these 25, 26, 27-year-olds in your business and realizing that, so it takes something a little bit different to engage these guys and inspire them and to get the best out of them. So I just think that people strategy, sometimes it's not ranked as important as the actual business strategy and what's the business plan for the year, where I think it's people that's at the heart of your business, and we should really invest in proper strategic people plans.
Interesting. I mean, with your experience working with both franchisees and franchisors, does this experience allow you to bring unique insights to this, often complex stakeholder relationship?
Yeah, I like to joke that I think I speak both languages, the language of franchisees and the language of franchisors, and they're different. They're cut from different cloths, yet they work together in this kind of interdependent system. One doesn't work without the other. You can't have a franchise organization without franchisees, and you can't have franchisees without a system to buy into. So I think that just investing a little bit in understanding what makes an entrepreneur so different? What are their different character traits? Why do they think the way they do? Why do they act the way they do? And then helping franchisees understand that, look, you don't have a relationship with the franchisor. You have a relationship with all of the employees that work for the franchisor. And the corporate career path is built very differently than, an entrepreneur going out on their own and starting their own business. They're way less, risk adverse. They're more led through direction. This is how the job is done. This is how I want you to do the job. So I just think that by investing a little bit in helping each other understand the differences in the relationship and the value that they both bring, that's where I have seen the most successful franchise systems thrive, is when they both really get each other and they value and enjoy working together.
Probably exciting to watch you shift gears when you speak to either side of those. That'd be very interesting to watch. you provide full cycle strategic, really people plans. So let's start with talent attraction. Can you help
Mhm.
organizations look and be more attractive maybe to certain gen groups that are seeking a company that align with their profile and their culture?
Yeah, I mean, that's the secret right there, is that organizations need to they need to have a recruitment strategy that stands out in a crowd, because when you are in a competitive industry and everybody's looking for talent, I'll tell you, if you're waiting to post that job until somebody hands in their resignation, you've already waited too long. The best organizations, they take a 365 approach to recruiting, meaning that they are always open and looking to talk to the best talent in the industry, whether they're hiring or not. They make time to speak to talent that's just come on the market, because you don't know when that's going to happen. So I think being in the market 365 days a year with your messaging and being where the job seekers are, I think this is a really profound nugget for people. That is, like, if you're looking to hire, or if the types of employees that you usually hire are that Gen Z, they're 25 years of age and under, man, if you're not on TikTok and if you're not on Instagram with your recruiting messages, you're just going to miss those kids entirely. So we need to get a little bit more flexible about where we think about putting our recruitment messaging, and then tailoring it to the types of folks that we want to join us and work in our organization.
Interesting. I mean, attracting the talent is obviously just half the challenge. Now, being able to build leaders, is leadership development an ongoing focus that you can kind of assist companies with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it has to be an ongoing focus, because, the best organizations in the world, they have usually an 80-20 rule. So 80% of their talent comes from internal promotions, with 20% of the talent coming externally, because you need that fresh eyes on the business also. But in order to hit that 80% mark, you've got to have processes in place where you identify talent in the organization and you
Sure.
put those guys on a development plan, and you invest in them and you coach them and you send them to courses and you cross train them. All of those things, that when you have needs arise in your organization for new folks, you've got a deep bench of talent that you can go to. And it's what people want. It's what the younger generations want. They want to know that they have a future in the company, and that somebody's going to care enough about them to invest in their professional development.
A lot of moving pieces when it comes to running a company. I mean, so you've attracted the top talent, developed leaders. How important is retaining now this winning team? Are these proven retention programs that you're able to provide?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when people talk about retention, they think, oh my gosh, I've got to give expensive trips and prizes and it's all about money. And that's just not true. I mean, money is important to people from a retention perspective, but only to a certain extent. The two things that are really, really important to the younger generations is that they want to feel appreciated for their work. That scores very, very highly in all of the big, the McKinsey studies, when they dive deep into these two generations. People want to feel appreciated. It's just human behavior to want to feel seen and appreciated for the work that you do. And the other big thing that tops the retention list is around career opportunities. They want to know that they have long-term possibilities at the organization, and that somebody's going to invest in their development. And then, of course, today, my goodness, hybrid work and that flexibility, that in itself has turned into a huge retention driver for a lot of organizations. That, if you're willing to let your team work from home 3 or 4 days a week, for a lot of people, that equates to extra salary dollars because they're not commuting. So I think if you can kind of hit the head on those three big buckets from a retention perspective, and you're paying at market value for the region that you're operating in, you're going to be in really good shape.
Interesting. I mean, you're able to share your expertise both in person and virtually. Let's touch on a few of the sessions you're able to help with. In leading Gen Z, you teach how coaching and appreciative leadership can help. Share what is kind of learned in that session there.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I go quite deep into is around giving feedback. And I think it's one of the areas that a lot of leaders really struggle with is, number one, how do you give effective feedback that's actually valuable to the employee? And how do you do it in a way, I like to say, that's like not soul crushing, that's going to leave the person feeling motivated and very clear about, what needs to happen next from a performance perspective. So I do quite a bit of work on a teaching out a feedback model. So that's a big part of it, is just coaching around feedback. And then I talk a lot about performance reviews. And, the best organizations in the world, they do 360 performance reviews where, they talk to a number of individuals that employee would work with directly, so that you don't have manager bias creeping into what is a really important event in an employee that's trying to build their corporate career. My goodness, if you've got a manager that's got a lot of bias against you, that can really dampen somebody's career. So I talk a lot about what is a great 360 performance review process. I go into the weeds on development plans, training plans, performance improvement plan, all the tools that help the leaders in that organization become excellent coaches. And then I go through really practical ways, small ways around appreciation and recognition, the small behaviors that leaders can adapt every day to make their team feel appreciated and recognized. And then I talk about some of the bigger, more formal programs that organizations can introduce, again, around appreciation and recognition, but a lot of tools, a lot of hands-on breakout exercises.
So really beyond theory, but some really practical tools that they can go out there and use. I mean, like you said, successful organizations are always hiring. I mean, this year-round task can be time-consuming. How does your 365 recruitment help optimize that process?
I think that when you're not stopping and starting your recruitment efforts, it really is a big game changer when it comes to time to hire. Because I think that's the most important metric when HR leaders are looking at how long it takes to fill vacant positions. And the organizations that are 365 recruiting, they're always looking to talk to great talent in their market. They tend to always have a pipeline of individuals. I think this person is amazing. I don't have a role right now, but gosh, when something comes up, they have a database of folks that they can reach out to preemptively without even waiting to see what happens from a job posting. So I think that's one of the big differentiators, is that it just closes that gap on time to hire, which actually has really big impacts on your overall culture. If a role sits empty for a long time, people have to pull the slack for that. It's the other folks on the team that have to take on extra duties, which can become a little bit stressful and taxing. So I think decreasing time to hire is a huge benefit of adopting that recruitment approach.
That is excellent. I mean, you not only teach, but you write about what you know. As a top-selling leadership author and a guest speaker, where can the public out there find your books?
They're all on Amazon, so all the different Amazon marketplaces, or they can go to my website, lauradarrowleadership.com, and all the books are listed with direct links there as well.
Excellent. Laura, with nearly 3 decades of experience, franchise leadership is definitely your jam, as you would say. Working with some of the world's most iconic brands, you aimed to understand from both perspectives what success looks like from the franchisee and the franchisor. Well, you have done it. Is building relationships between the two continue to be rewarding for you?
Yeah, 100%. It's I have so much love for that industry, and it's where I grew up. I have just such deep relationships in that industry already. And I'm really invested in just helping bring those two groups together, because I've seen it. When it happens, the business results are really phenomenal. So yeah, I'm really invested in those two groups.
That is exciting. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is her website. On the website, you can see all the sessions that she provides. You can learn more about Laura and her vast experience that she brings to the table. You can contact her to schedule a session or to speak at your organization. Find her books and her blog right there on her website. Franchisees and franchisors, like she said, are cut from 2 different cloths. Yet with Laura's consulting, they can work well together in an interdependent system. This is Gary Atensa with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.